You know we run the country, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and now we got the GT money. Oh, we just rum dance all and we back party. Kapach and cracker jack, we in a category. And anything we do, the radio station have a play. Cause people in the party just a ball, hooray. We from GT and then we love ladies. And them rush we when we come a party. But look, we jump on your mic, we make your party alright. I read them what we are singing, make you bubble and think. We out of GT, but bye, and everybody know we run the country, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and now we get the GT money. I saw me bound to grow, me say, in a pleasant. Since I was a youth, I was a ram dance man. Bound to grow in a Victoria. Your granny say, boy, you better be a singer. Have a house, me say, in a pleasant. Watches have a house of Victoria back down. Have a minibus, I walk the city. Watches have a cold one, it ma walk the country. We out of GT, but bye, everybody know we run the country. Like me say, we out of GT, hey, and now we get the GT money. Some are DJ and some are singer. And when you check them out, you find them a small timer. We are DJ and we are singer. And when they check we out, they find we a big timer. Now the time has come and my show for me know. So listen to we music and go dance by your toe. They couldn't touch me no matter how they try. So if them say they rank with me, I lie, them I lie. Come Mr. Pacha, rock this I want, eh. Come Mr. Pacha, beg your rock and come on, eh. Come Kaka Jack, sing this ya one. After this ya one, you do it one by one. We out of GT, but bye, and everybody know we run the country, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and now we get the GT money. Come and say, Banna grow, me say, in a pleasant. That was a youth, that was a ram dance man. Patches, Banna grow in a Victoria. Everybody say, why you better be a singer. Cracker have a house, me say, in a pleasant. Just have a house and adore you. And have a minibus, you want to cover them, I want the country. Cause we out of GT, but bye, and everybody know we run the country, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and now we get the GT money, Lord. We out of GT, come catch it. And everybody know we run the country. Come tell them, bye, we out of GT, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and everybody know we run the country, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and now we got the GT money. Oh, we just rum dance all and we back party. Kapach and cracker jack, we in a category. And anything we do, the radio station have a play. Cause people in the party just a ball, hooray. We from GT and then we love ladies. And them rush we when we come a party. But look, we jump on your mic, we make your party alright. I read them what we are singing, make you bubble and think. We out of GT, but bye, and everybody know we run the country, Lord. We out of GT, but bye, and now we get the GT money. I saw me bound to grow, me say, in a pleasant. Since I was a youth, I was a ram dance man. Bound to grow in a Victoria. Your granny say, why you better be a singer. Have a house, me say, in a pleasant. Watches have a house of Victoria back down. Have a minibus, I walk the city. Watches have a cold one, ma walk the country. We out of GT, but bye, everybody know we run the country. Like me say, we out of GT, hey, and now we get the GT money.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Wakenham, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data. I have none.
And you're confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in,
And you're confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for all the oil in Guyana.
Give me a major break. Hi, good evening. My name is Mark Penchap, and welcome to Straight Up. It's 7 minutes after 9 o'clock. We are going to rock and roll. This one is there as the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission is basically up to no good. She is not about transparency. She's not about free and fair elections. She's not about getting or ensuring that the system is put in place so that nobody can be complaining thereafter. She doesn't want to leave that legacy. Instead, she's there and she is contributing towards the system being as corrupt as it is. And this is a woman, Claudette Singh, who sits there and in a response to Gordon Mosley, this is what she's saying, and she believes that all Guyanese are a crazy set of people, right? We know better. We are big and we have lots and lots of sense.
And you're confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way
Only one way she knows. Well, we don't want to get into all of that, which one way she knows. It's her private business. That's it. But she's claiming only one way, and she can deliver credible elections. How the heck can you deliver credible elections when you are doing every single thing to stymie the process? The voters list has not been cleansed, and lots of dead people. Look, which sort of country, which system will allow persons who are no longer on earth, who have transitioned, who are no longer with us? You say it whatever you want to say, dead, passed away, whatever. And this is all due respect to those decent people who have passed away, mind you, that you don't want them off the list. It's simple. If you don't want persons who have transitioned, who have gone, and there are persons who have been out of Guyana for 30, 40 years, they're allowed to go back there, register, and their names are still on the list. Lots of folks, their names are still on the list. If they are inactive, get them off the list. Take, for example, in the United States of America, if they see you inactive in a particular area, you're not voting, you're not doing anything, guess what? They'll question you and they will ask for you to make yourself known as to whether you are going to continue to vote in this particular area or not. And if so, they will take you off the list. Why is it Claudette Singh? Why is it Claudette Singh is operating as though she is the only intelligent person in Guyana? She's the only person with sense in Guyana. Nonsense. She is stymieing process at the Guyana Elections Commission. Let's listen to her again while you share the link.
And you're confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for all the oil in Guyana.
We don't care what you sell. You've been selling a heck of a lot. You've sold your soul. You sold out the country. You're definitely unpatriotic. You swing. You took you're better than one of those spin bowlers or swing bowlers or whatever it is they call it, right? Claudette Singh, don't fool people. You're not for the people. You are for yourself. Wouldn't know it better than I. Mind you, Claudette, who would know it better than I do in terms of what you are all about? Good evening to all of you. 11 minutes after 9 o'clock. Attorney at law Shellen Washington is going to be with us, and then later on we'll be joined by, you know who else, Wayne Caesar. I wish we had the opportunity to have Ann, John, and all those other folks, Delon, Frank, and all of you right here. But who wants to call it? You guys feel like calling in tonight to let Claudette Singh know how you feel? Let me know. Don't let me put the number on the screen and you just don't call. You guys just sit there and you stare at us. You just look at us, you know. If you want to call to make a quick comment or whatever, feel free to give us a call right now. What's the call-in number? Let us see here. 917-714-1082. Feel free to give us a call. Let's talk while we prepare to have Shellen Washington, attorney at law, with us. And later on, we'll be joined by our public accountant, Mr. Wayne Caesar. But this is the number. You guys just don't stare at it. Call in, let's hear your voice. Let's hear your take on something. A lot of you have been commenting, you've been writing and so forth. Some of you say we don't even take phone calls. Francine has been complaining about that. I've noticed Francine probably hasn't paid her internet bill, so we haven't seen Francine on. Last night, neither have we seen her thus far. She's not on thus far. So if you want to comment about something that is bothering you, feel free to give us a call. Just don't type away. Feel free to give us a call. Somebody's complaining that they're in Facebook jail, and John is constantly in jail, always in jail. These jailbirds, and John, jailbird. All right, so what else is happening in Guyana? Let's go here. Talk about Exxon. What do you guys want to hear about Exxon? Well, look at what Exxon is doing. Mind you, take a quick look at what Exxon is doing. ExxonMobil pumps $4 million into primary school T-ball tournament. $4 million. $4 million. Okay, wow. Exxon is giving back to school. School now started. They just started. Let the kids settle down. Right away, they're going into T-ball competition. Right off the bat. Let them settle down, right? But what is 4 million Guyana dollars? What exactly is 4 million Guyana dollars? What is 4 million Guyana dollars? You guys tell me. What is 4 million Guyana dollars? Eglin Gobes is asking for the number. Eglin, you know my number, 917-714-1082. It's the same number on the screen. But what is 4 million Guyana dollars? Let's get the equivalence of that. 4 million in US. 4 million Guyana dollars converted to US currency. Come on, Raul. You guys are bright guys out there. Y'all didn't attend the University of IFLOT. Bernadette James, you guys are bright. Brenda Braithwaite or Braffett, you guys are bright. Let me see who's not bright on this. I'll call out the ones who are bright and the ones who are not bright. I will call them out. And so true, Hector, he's not bright. Let me see who else is not bright here. Carl Miller, he's not bright. Who else is not bright? Let me see. Who else is not bright? Okay, you guys know I'm just kidding with you, right? But share the link as we get ready to rock and roll here this evening. Waveney Doris, good evening to you. All right, so what's 20,000? Eon Winters, thank you so much. Roxanne Bess. Oh, wow, Roxanne, no maths. Thank you, Roxanne. Carl Miller, I told you guys Carl Miller went to school with IFLOT. Carl Miller said 200,000 Guyana dollars. All right. There's Bonita James and others. Gully God, yes, indeed. Gully God is saying, don't forget to share the link. Thank you so much, guys, for remembering to share the link. But 4 million Guyana dollars, and for those who have said that's not right, hey, you know, you can take a little rubbing, so to speak. But Yvette Graham and others are saying 20,000. So 20,000 Guyana dollars, or maybe about 18,000 Guyana dollars, they push their hands into their pockets and throw it to some tape ball, and they are comfortable with that. They are comfortable with that. So we must jump on a mountaintop and say hallelujah to ExxonMobil. We must jump and say hallelujah. $4 million. Meanwhile, guys, they're eager to rush to give out these little crumbs. Meanwhile, look at what's happening. Forget about that. Look at what's happening. Government allows Exxon, the corrupt PPP regime, has allowed Exxon to slash US $214 million in questionable cost. And instead of paying $214 million US in questionable costs, they only have to pay $3 million US. That's it. So they push into their pockets $211 million US. Meanwhile, they give out 20 or 18,000 US dollars for some tape ball tournament. And the money, and let me just give you guys this breakdown. The money that they are spending, guess who has to pay for this? ExxonMobil is not the one that is paying for this. The taxpayers have to repay this. So this is not being deducted out of anything out of Exxon. It is when they have to submit that bill to the corrupt PPP regime, this 4 million Guyana dollars that they're spending is included. So they are giving out your money, making it look as though it is something they are doing out of their pockets, when in fact it is your taxpayer dollars, your oil money they're giving you. So tomorrow they may go to Linden and give them $4 million for some soccer. And then they will go back to Georgetown, and that's it. And then people who read it are going to feel so happy. Oh, wow, Exxon, look what Exxon is doing. Oh, wow, look at what Exxon is doing. Oh, this time Exxon isn't doing anything. When the executives of Exxon in Guyana, when they travel, when you go on the plane and you see them on the plane, you think it is their money that they're traveling on first class, business class, and so forth? No, it is your tax dollars that they are traveling in first class, business class, and while you got to sit in the pit area next to the toilet, that's where you got to sit. But you are paying for their comforts. You're paying for their friends and families and so forth to travel. So when they travel, they come to Guyana, spend a day. They could go back to Miami, go back to any other part of the U.S. or wherever they're traveling to. Compliments of the hardworking taxpayers of Guyana. That's just how it is. So they're living this luxury lifestyle. Guyana has become once again like a cotton field, a big cotton field, a big plantation, where not much, just crumbs, is being sprinkled back into the economy. Crumbs being sprinkled back to people in the form of 4,020,000 US dollars for tape ball. School just started, just about 3 or 4 days. School started, and you're gone with tape ball. You're not hearing that Exxon has furnished the entire schools or school system with computer labs, 20 computers per lab, 50 computers per lab. That is the way forward. But then again, when you have a corrupt regime as the PPP, they don't do anything. They haven't done anything other than, well, I take that back. They have done a lot of thieving the people's monies. That is what the installed PPP regime, those who are part of the installed PPP regime, that is what they do. Miss October wants to show us that she's the brightest out of Buxton. And she says it's $19,650. Thank you, Miss Booker. Indeed, the brightest out of Buxton. The brightest indeed out of Buxton. I want us to go, and our operator, thank you so much, Lemon, has signaled me. If you guys probably saw the red light just going click, 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 click. It means that Miss Washington, Shellon Washington, attorney at law, a legitimate attorney at law. She sat there, she wrote the bar exam, and she passed it probably on the first try. I'm not going to kid you guys. I may probably pass it even before halfway through the exams. I already passed it. That's how bright I am. Some people failed it. Miss Washington, not to get too personal, I know the bar exams, especially in New York State, it is tough, tough. How long did you study for that exam?
I probably studied, I think, full 2 months using, I think it was Celebration Bar Review back then. That's what I used to prepare.
Wow. First, second, third, or fourth try?
First, there's no second, no third. My first try.
I know why you did. I know why. It's the Linden blood in you. The Linden blood. I passed the bar exam on the first try myself. The Camp Street bar exam.
You know, a lot of people often tell the
Behind bars
story.
exam.
A lot of people mention when you tell them you're preparing for the bar or you're taking the bar. A lot of people usually say, "Oh, John F. Kennedy, one of the Kennedys,
JFK Jr. failed it
yes,
probably about
four
2 times.
times. Four
How many
times.
Four, yeah.
4 times.
I don't think it's really fourth. I recall back then before he died in that plane crash, I was in touch with his office, and I was almost this close to get an interview with JFK Jr., his son, John F. Kennedy Jr. Yeah, well, JFK is his father, JFK Jr. And a couple of weeks after that, he died. A horrible crash indeed. But either the third or four times he wrote that. It's not easy, but our own Shalon Washington, attorney at law from Linden, Toward Ali, next to Polka Street, passed the bar exam on her first try. Whenever I get there, I hope that I'm as lucky to pass the bar exam on the first try. I'm not going to have anybody write it for me. I wouldn't call you and say, "Can you write?" But you can't even write it for nobody.
Well, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't look at all like you to pass.
No, I wouldn't do that at all. But let me ask you a question, Miss Washington. It's really good to see you this evening. How have you been?
Thank you, Mark. I am great. Keeping busy, very, very busy in my office. Thanks to all of the people who are viewing this show and who are faithfully listening in every night.
Yeah, thank you. You have started your own show. You do everything on your own with our operator here at 107.1 FM. The Law on You every Saturday from 4 p.m. How are you feeling now that you have your own show right here on 107.1 FM?
I mean, I think it's awesome. I get to interact with the audience and tell them, educate them as it relates to the law, so they can make great positive decisions if they're living here in the United States. And, from time to time, I'll have people from Guyana, but I have a really great treat for them this Saturday. I'm going to be, I have a surprise guest who all of them know who the guest is. And they're going to find out the extent of how very learned you are in my guess is, I shouldn't say who the guest, I just give it away.
Yeah.
How learned my guest is, and my guest is a specialized in issues relating to immigration law. So
Miss Washington, don't let the looks fool you. I didn't go to the University of Iflat. My last name is Benchab, not Ali, right? Yes, but this Saturday. Again, good evening to all of you beautiful people there. This Saturday, we will be talking about immigration issues and so forth. And lots of things we will be touching on immigration issues. We know that the U.S., they have different laws, and every time they're fighting with immigration matters, whether it's DACA, whatever it is, we will be talking about a lot of immigration issues this Saturday at
4 p.m.
4 p.m. Yeah. We have a lot of our listeners, some of them, all of compliments. Shalon is glowing. These folks are not easy, Miss Washington, again, nice to see you. Let's get straight down to business. Here it is that ExxonMobil is given, they have actually donated $4 million Guyana dollars. $4 million Guyana dollars to tape ball. 4 million. What is your take on this 4 million tape ball, equivalent to about $19,960 US dollars, according to Miss Booker from Buxton?
You know, it's always a situation where I find it unfortunate that oil is worth so much. It's worth so much. And you look at countries like Dubai, oil-rich Dubai, and there are other countries, Nigeria. Well, I don't want to use Nigeria, but there's a lot of other countries. Look at Trinidad right there next to us. And they're oil-rich. They're an oil-rich country. And you look at what we're getting for the oil that we have, and it's mere crumbs from the table that we're getting. We're getting the crumbs that fall from the table. $4 million from a company that is making billions of dollars in Guyana from the oil. I think it's a disgrace, but this is what our government has been accepting, crumbs from the table on behalf of the people of Guyana. And this is all Exxon is going to give us. What we accept is what we're going to get. So we've been in a position for a very, very long time where the government has been comfortable taking very little or nothing. So that's what ExxonMobil think we're worth. So that's what they're going to give to us. Whatever we accept, that's what we're going to get.
And especially since the people have no proper representatives, you have corrupt individuals in the installed PPP regime. They're allowing these things to happen. Nothing is wrong with the little donations here and there and so forth. But a company like Exxon, they give 4 million Guyana dollars, just about 20,000 US dollars. And when you think that it's Exxon that's actually giving that, the taxpayers of Guyana have to repay that. How unfair is that, Ms. Washington?
That is very, very unfair, especially to the working class people in Guyana who are really feeling the blunt of this, the blunt of the weight that they're carrying from the decisions the government of Guyana is making. You know, I see that they're taking funds from I think we have a natural resource fund or some sort of fund of that. They implemented an act in 2021. So, you know, it's the ordinary man in Guyana that is really carrying the weight of the country, because they're the ones who have to wonder, school started, where they're going to find clothing, shoes, a proper meal to put on the table, while the people on the top, they're living sumptuously off, stealing off the taxpayers' money, and they're living sumptuous lives, while the ordinary man in the bottom is struggling, and he's carrying the force, the weight. So if the taxpayers have to pay that money back, I'm really not surprised. It's the people that are allowing this to happen to them. And until you understand, the people of Guyana, until you understand that you got to take your country into your own hand, the government doesn't care. And when you have a government that is just living for themselves, to put money into their friends' pocket, put money in their own pockets, you got to rise up, because this is now your country. It's not Afan Ali's country. It's not Barjagdio's country, but it's the people of Ghana that owns that country, and they're your servants. You put them there. So now you got to get up and tell them, like, if you're not going to put out, get out. If you're not putting up, get out of office, step down, step aside, so that we, the people of Ghana, can elect the right people that can lead us properly and not make us pay the cost for repaying money from Mobil, Exxon, and carrying the weight of taxes on our shoulder. The people of Guyana, especially the working class people, they need a better life.
They need a better life indeed. I focus on this comment by George Tanner. George is saying the government, or in this case, the installed corrupt PPP regime, is to be blamed, not Exxon. And I agree with him. Any company can go into Guyana and attempt to do whatever they want to do. But if they're allowed to do that by a corrupt regime, as in the case of the PPP, well, how much blame should we blame Exxon? Exxon, they're there to make a profit and run away and do whatever they wish they're allowed to do, by this corrupt regime. So it's the regime has to be blamed.
Exactly.
Thank you, George. Yep. Good comment. Good observation there, George. And we're seeing a comment here from Yoshev say they demoralize the people over an extended period of time. That's precisely what corrupt and oppressive regime actually do. Regimes throughout the globe. That's what they do. Let us move now, since we're still on Exxon. The regime allows Exxon to slash US 214 million US dollars in questionable costs down to US $3 million. Miss Washington?
Mark, that's a really bad deal. As a civil attorney, there are a lot of times, for people who don't know, as an attorney, about 90, I would say about 95% of all cases are usually settled. And or maybe it's a little bit higher. And the 5% that actually goes to trial, those are the ones that you get your full judgment that you're asking the court once you win. But if you go to negotiate a deal, one of the things I would say is Guyana have really bad negotiators. And whoever negotiated that deal needs to be fired. You guys need to demand that person is fired. Because first of all, if you're looking at a deal, if you're looking at something that's 214 billion, right, US dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and you slash it down to a mere $3 million, that is the worst possible deal in the history of the making that I've ever seen in my entire life. Most people negotiate a deal that would settle maybe for 3/3 of what they're asking for, or maybe 90% of what you're asking for, or 80%, or 70%, or in some instances 60%. But what is this? This is not even 50% of what is owed to the people of Guyana. And I don't even want to get into why was the debt being negotiated. Because if taxes is owed to Guyana, then it must be paid by ExxonMobil. They must pay their just dues. You think ExxonMobil would be in the United States and doing business and tell the US government, tell the IRS that they're not paying their taxes to the IRS? The IRS would shut them down. Things would get crazy in the United States if you refuse to pay taxes. So why is ExxonMobil negotiating with the Guyana government their responsibility and that their contractual responsibility? They agreed to come and operate in our country. They agreed to pay the taxes. The taxes is what helps the country to offset its expenses and to flourish. And if the government of Guyana is going to be taking the people need to wake up, open your eyes. That is the worst possible deal that any negotiator could possibly accept. And because the deal is so atrocious, it's so disgusting, it's appalling, the people of Guyana need to come out and protest this. This is ridiculous. No one should accept or negotiate a deal like that. The people of Guyana need to call upon the government to tell them who negotiated this horrible deal. $240 million slash all the way down to a mere $3 million US dollars. Make it make sense. This does not make any sense whatsoever. And the government of Guyana need to be held accountable, and they need to answer to the people of Guyana. What type of deal is this? This is shameful, ridiculous, atrocious, all the bad terms that you could find to describe this. And the negotiator needs to be fired. Whoever accepted this deal is ridiculously, and they're ridiculously crazy, because this is no type of deal at all. It shouldn't have been accepted.
Absolutely no deal at all. Tony Hack is saying Exxon extracting Guyanese teeth without cocaine, right? That is so true. Absolutely true. Let's see what Raul Chalmers is saying here. Exxon pays zero taxes. All their equipment is duty-free. Salaries for their executives are tax-free. Jagdeer bribes is tax-free. Can you believe that, Miss Washington? Can you really believe that?
Absolutely, because you see that situation I'm going to reference that is happening it's happening in Africa, and people are saying all over the world that this is exactly what happens. You see these huge corporations, they go into these countries that has natural resources, and they find corrupt governments, anybody that would collude with them to agree to accept bribes and to give them this sort of deal. This type of deal, exactly this type of deal, is what corrupt countries, corrupt governments accept. And if you look at what's going on in Africa, everyone is speaking about it, that these these corporations, these giant corporations, they go to countries exactly like Guyana or any underdeveloped, they reference it as underdeveloped countries, and they seek out government exactly like Barrett Jagdeo's government. They install PPP, and what they do, they bribe these people or they offer them incentives for giving a bad deal to the country. And it's essentially is a sellout. They're selling out your natural resources for zero, for nothing. The people of Guyana are getting absolutely nothing for these deals. And this is corruption. This is corrupt practices. You have a government that absolutely is operating under the guise that they want to do fair. But look at the deal. Look at it for yourself. Let it be transparent in your eyes to see how atrocious it is that the government has accepted it's really bad negotiation. And whoever negotiated is a bad negotiator. And we can't even say bad because we know what's behind it. Somebody was given a bribe. Somebody was given something of value to accept such a bad deal at the expense of you, the people of Guyana, at your expense.
Absolutely. In any other country, in Jamaica, we see what's happening in Jamaica. The Jamaicans stand up, they go out and they protest and they fight for their people. Guyana is so corrupt right now under the PPP regime, and there are even some members in the opposition who themselves are very corrupt. Good evening to all of you. If you're now joining us, my name is Mark Benchap. We have with us Ms. Shellon Washington, attorney at law, probably heading up the list of number one attorney, Caribbean attorney, and maybe in the entire Brooklyn. You guys got to give her a call. You got to stop by her office, see how she's doing, shake her hands, get autographs from her, ask her which salon she goes to, these sort of things, chit chat with her. Oops, our operator just decided to just sneak Wayne Caesar on. We were expecting him at 9:30. He's 8 minutes late. Wayne, how are you doing, my brother?
Good night, Mark. Good night, Shellon. Good night to all our listeners and viewers. I'm doing quite fine. I hope you both are doing well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Caesar. We were just talking about where we left off last night about this 214 million US dollars. The corrupt PPP regime has decided to slash and have Exxon pay only $3 million, which means $211 million just allowed to stay in the pockets of Exxon and probably bribes to Jagdeo. Jagdeo, who is known to be a con man. Ms. Washington, before we get to Mr. Caesar, or maybe we'll just ask Wayne, what's the main thing that's happening today as you give your brief introduction? Go ahead, sir.
Well, listen, I was just listening to Shellon elaborate on what's going on there with this $214 million situation here. And yes, she's correct. Like I would have said before, this money is very material in nature, especially based on how our Guyanese people are forced to live below the poverty line. And listen, when you look at the large economies and the governments of the large economies around the world, they come into quote-unquote third world countries like Guyana, as Miss Washington would have said, and seek, you understand me, to extract, you understand me, wealth out of these countries. But the thing is not just seeking to extract the wealth, but it's the way in how they do it. Okay, they always seem to put a government in place that is borderline terrorists, borderline dictators, to really subdue the people so that they can just walk in and have their way. You know, Mark, listen, for 23 years, the PPP has literally, walked through the people of Guyana with little to no resistance, especially of late. You know, the resistance is coming from us here, but on the ground, you know, there's hardly any resistance. So what do you think these people are going to do? They are going to make reckless decisions without concern because they're not being put in check by anyone. So hence the reason this government is taking the positions that they're taking. Whenever they go to parliament, they're always going to parliament for more money. hitting the natural resource fund, making deals with Exxon underneath the table, can't account for monies across the board. I think we're up to about 300 million now.
Yep.
You know, hey,
Making deals with a lot of companies, whether the Chinese companies and all these different things. Shame on the PPP regime. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Wayne Caesar. I want to ask Miss Washington, the lawyer here, the only lawyer here, and along with the only public accountant here, and the only talk show host, yours truly. But Miss Washington, on a serious note, it says here 16 sugar workers among 20 persons charged for unlawful acts during protests. When I read this article about the arrest of these sugar workers and others, I saw that they were charged for acts of terrorism. What's going on in Guyana? Everything now you can't protest is terrorism now?
I noticed that, Mark. There were a series of charges, including terrorism, damage to property, obstruction of traffic, a slew of charges I've read that were inflicted or enforced on these men. And most of them are very young. The age I saw range from early 20s, early to mid 20s, all the way to the 50s. And I think it's unfortunate that people are not allowed to protest for their rights in Guyana without being harassed, without being subdued, without being controlled by the Guyana government. And this just highlights the fact that we have been over and over repeating the rule of law, the rule of law. I saw the international community made noise over some country that wasn't enforcing the rule of law equally. And I think somebody needs to speak up. The international community needs to speak up about what is happening in Guyana. The case is, you cannot come out and say sugarcane workers. I know traditionally some people look at them as, they're working class essentially, but they're humans also, and they deserve rights. So I believe if they're protesting for their rights, they ought to be allowed. And these charges that I've seen, Royce Ford is one of the attorneys representing them, so I know that they'll get competent representation. I see Kim Raj Ramjitan is also one of the attorneys representing these people, and I know I have confidence that they'll be properly represented, because those charges are trumped up charges that they can't stick. Because if people are protesting, I'm not sure how you come up with terroristic threats or terrorist charges. How do you come up with damage to property? Even if they block the road, obstruction of traffic, aren't you allowed to walk in the road if you're protesting? There's certain things that are allowed, and it's part of protesting that the police should allow people to do. But the way the laws are written in Guyana, it's meant by its nature to keep you subdued, to control you, and to make you do what the master says. And the master in this country, at the time these laws were written, we had colonial masters, but now we have a different form of colonial masters ruling through those same people you see you have installed there as the PPP. So they are trying to control what happens. So if you're not contented with the way things are going and you decide to protest, this is what you do. They trump charges upon charges, fake charges on you, just to get you under control to do whatever they want you to do. But I've read those charges, and to me it doesn't make sense. What terroristic act could you commit from protesting in the street? I really can't imagine any type of act that would go towards a terroristic act if you're protesting, I don't know, peacefully or whatever they were doing, but I just can't imagine. Damage to property, that's one that could happen, but I didn't read anything that tells me that they were throwing stuff, they damaged cars that were trying to pass on the road, or there's nothing there that I saw that could make any of these charges legitimate. So it's terrible, and people has to wake up and recognize what this government is doing. Oppression, that's the word. Control and oppression. That's what's going on in Guyana.
And I noticed a comment from Raul Chalmers is talking as a terrorist organization. The PPP will always project their own criminal intent onto anyone protesting lawfully. It is the same PPP that attempted to firebombed the U.S. Embassy many, many years ago. It is the same PPP that burned the sugar estates, burned the cane fields, sorry. They did a lot of burning and so forth. Those are examples of terroristic acts. But people who are exercising their constitutional rights to protest, they're now being charged with terrorism. This is not the first that we're hearing of this sort of charge. On the east coast of Demerara, if you guys will recall, there were people who were protesting for the Quindon Bacchus murder, the young man who was murdered by police. They rounded up about 17 or 18 persons and they charged them also with terrorism. That particular law needs to be challenged. But before we get to Mr. Wayne Caesar, let's go to the protest of the sugar workers the other day. And this is how they were, very peaceful, exercising their constitutional rights. Days after, their colleagues went out to protest, same thing, and they're charged now with terrorism. All right, Mr. Caesar and Miss Washington. We just decided to show you guys how peaceful those cane harvesters were. Their colleagues were very peaceful, just like the other folks who were protesting against an injustice, the extrajudicial killing of Quindon Bacchus there on the east coast of Demerara, and they were all charged with terrorism. No evidence presented in court. Absolutely no evidence. But I want to take you guys back to this event in 2020. It occurred at Bad Settlement. I want you to see the difference. No charges, no nothing. Take a look, guys.
The actions of the People's Progressive Party supporters at Bath Settlement has led to the injury of 4 school children and police officers. Here is that report.
Bath Settlement on the west coast of Berbice has seen violent protesting by supporters of the PPP following Thursday's declaration of regional elections for District 4. A school bus transporting children that attended school in Belladrum was attacked, with a number of children injured. Friday's unrest saw blocking and burning of roads, destruction to public property, and the assault on police officers, most notably with bottles and other projectiles. The violent protesters have also blocked traffic in a number of areas, preventing citizens from going about their daily activities. Luzignan on the east coast of Demerara saw a larger number of PPP supporters protesting, causing unrest beginning Friday morning. It is only after a prolonged period did one member of the opposition address the violent protests, subtly asking protesters to keep the peace. At 4 p.m., well beyond the period of violent protests, the leader of the opposition issued a message to the supporters. On Thursday, leaders of the PPP on several occasions disrupted the work of GCOM at its command center. Shaquille Bourne, for Info.
So when we talk of terrorism, you guys saw it there. Guns, burning, terroristic acts, burning up of the roads, all manner of things, beating up of police. Those sugar workers did nothing compared to what these terrorists, these PPP terrorists did. those people on the east coast of Demerara protesting for Queen and Bacchus, they didn't do anything close to what these PPP terrorists did in Bad Settlement. Mr. Caesar, take a first bite of that, please, sir.
Well, listen, Mark, it just shows you, if that was Afro-Guyanese or members of the opposition that would have done that, Barra Jagdeo would have came out and he would have called them thugs. But when the PPPC and their supporters come out and do these type of things, you just hear, the people are upset and they're protesting. They are called people. It is interesting. I saw people there standing up with firearms and all the rest of it. And these guys are trying to charge people with terroristic this and terroristic that. I mean, listen, that's really going outside of the scope there. Because when we want to talk about terrorists, these guys need to start examining themselves first. Because if you ask me about terrorists, what happened to Paper Short in front of Palm Court? That was terroristic. He was just motoed down with a semi-automatic gun there. Okay? And what? Nothing came out of the story. Listen, back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s, when you have numerous young black men being executed across Guyana, that's what you call terroristic, if you want to talk about terroristic. But people coming out and protest, that is their democratic right. They have a right to do that. People speaking out, that's their democratic right. Freedom of speech. You guys put the ERC there to monitor people. What the ERC need to start monitoring you guys first before they can go and monitor the people. Monitor the moves that you are making before they monitor the people of Guyana. Listen, Mark, when you look at the judicial system across Guyana, justice seems to, not fall in favor of a certain type of people or people who support a certain party. But for others who support that installed government and their party, everything seems to work in their favor. And this needs to stop. Sure. And the Guyana police force continues to be weaponized by this installed government. All they do is harass and treat their citizens with disrespect. They lack knowledge of the laws. And this starts at the top. This starts at the top in the Guyana police force. Indeed. When you talk about the acting commissioner who had a subpar score on the exam, what was the score, Mark? 27?
About 27 or so, but it's right, 54 minutes.
Mark, that's going to trickle down, you understand me, to his officers, and ultimately that is what's happening. The guys don't feel like if they need to read up their manuals and come in educated when addressing the public. They address the public however they feel like.
Thank you.
Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, sir. Let's points well taken there. Let's bring Miss Washington. You saw what happened there at the Bad Settlement situation with those thugs, those PPP thugs and terrorists. They were never charged or anything. Your take, Miss Washington, please.
It just highlights the discussion which needs to happen. And people need to pay attention that the rule of law is not being equally enforced against all Guyanese. Some of us are being discriminated against, while others are being treated with they're having the red carpet rolled out when they commit criminal activities or criminal offenses. We've seen this happen multiple times. We've seen the Dharmlal situation where the red carpet was rolled out for Dharmlal, never charged, nothing happened. We've seen how they treated the most recent situation with that murder where the alleged accused person is in the United States and they still issued a wanted bulletin. These things highlights the fact that we've been stressing to you Guyanese people over and over and over and over. We are not being treated fairly. The rule of law is not being enforced fairly. The government of Guyana is corrupt. They're racist. They discriminate, not just against race, though, but against anybody who doesn't support their political policies. And we, the people of Ghana, has to recognize, get up, stand up, and fight back. The government needs to stop this lawlessness, enforce the law fairly. You've seen what the PPP protesters did. Nothing came of it. Why? Because they were supporting the PPP rhetoric. They were supporting their politics. This is why no one said anything. No one was arrested. Nothing was done. But if you, the people of Ghana, start to realize and recognize what's going on and get up and say enough is enough and start getting into the streets and say, well, what happened to the sugarcane workers is not going to happen to any other Guyanese. The government will eventually have to stop. But if we do nothing, we stay quiet and we allow this to continue, it will continue and we will be oppressed. So to avoid the oppression or to crush the oppressors, you've got to say enough is enough, and the rule of law needs to be equally applied across the board. It doesn't change if you're a PPP or PNC or whatever you are. It should not be, and it should have the police need to also understand that they have a job and they need to execute their job fairly and efficiently and stop taking orders from the PPP and being puppets for the PPP, because you're not working for the PPP. Your job is to protect the people of Ghana and ensure that justice is done by treating everyone fairly and equally.
Yep. 57 minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's go to another video. Thank you to our operator. This is the installed guy that is there, that thug, that political thug, that hooligan, Irfan Ali. That's him. That's him. That thug that just the other day said that he's a peaceful man and that Aubrey Norton needs to seek forgiveness from him. That thug, that con man, Irfan Ali. Take a look at him again here.
Specific fields, there will be a booth designated to that here tonight. So persons who are unemployed and looking to become employed.
Is that a peaceful man, Mr. Wayne Caesar?
Well, listen, looking at the actions, they're trying to overturn a vehicle of a sitting minister. Now, you want to talk about something that's borderline terroristic? Look at that. That's a good example right there. And these are the same guys who wants to levy charges against a few poor sugar workers out there. These guys are poor people, you know, but what this government is seeking to do, Mark, is to make an example of these guys. You understand me? To deter Guyanese from executing, you understand me, their rights to protest, to go out, let their voices be heard. You know, this government that is in place right now is, you know, whatever we're saying, Mark, is not getting through to them because they already have a plan in place, and the plan in place that they have does not benefit the Guyanese people at all. You know, I mean, we keep calling for the people to stand up, Mark, but when you look in the opposition, it appears as if some of the MPs themselves are a bit scared. So if we have people in the opposition that is scared, what do you expect of the man and woman on the ground in Guyana? You know, they are looking to be empowered. You know, they are looking for leadership. They are petrified. Listen, just by looking at some of the protests, Mark, that would have occurred, and see how some of the people take the placards to cover their faces, is an indication of what's happening across Guyana. The fact of the matter is that you can't even leave your job to say that you're going to take your lunch period to go out and protest for a cause. an issue that affects you, an issue that affects your family and friends, you can't do that because what? You're risking losing your job. And that is the issue. And, I think I heard Shelon would have quoted on the international community, they are not seeing. They are seeing, but they are choosing to do nothing. They are seeing, but they're choosing to do nothing. And there's always, after one time, it's always another. And I hope when the Guyanese people decide to come together as a unit and rise up, I hope everybody hold a cool and the international community does not come out to persecute them. Because what is happening here could never be fair, Mark, no matter how you look at it. You can see exactly what's happening to Guyana here.
All right. On
The
that
fact of the
note,
matter, Mark, that the people are being eliminated from everything, it just shows, man. It just shows. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. We just look at one of the Ray Rampersad. Oh my gosh. I just want folks to know where I know Ray from. Ray spent some time in Camp Street Prison, I believe. He was one of those guys who used to cook in the kitchen. He used to sleep in a hammock with, I believe, who is it? A guy they call Tiger from Alboiston. And here it is. Ray Rampersad is on the show tonight. I'm glad that you're out, Ray, but let me just say to you that Tug, T-U-G, Tug. T-U-G, Tug. All right. But good to see that Ray is out. Yeah, I think he was in there for petty crime and, thieving and all these sort of things. But here it is. He's out. Good to see you. But tonight, we haven't used this guy in a while. Ray, originally from Camp Street Prisons, in and out, in and out, in and out. He gets the award tonight. So nice to see you, Ray. I'm glad that every time they join us, I'll recognize them. And I said, I know this face, I know this name. Wayne, I look at him, I'm like, Miss Washington, I'm like, Ray Rampersad? Man, he was a hell of a thing in prison. The guy's, gosh. Anyways, look, moving on now, just before we go, though, and thanks for those points, Mr. Caesar. Appreciate it. I want Miss Washington, before we prepare to wrap up this evening, take a look at this boat, Miss Washington. It's a vessel that carries dozens of people for over 2, 3, 4, 5 hours in the ocean, in the river. One woman died, another person suffered from an asthma attack, and lots of other folks were complaining. Take a look at that vessel, Miss Washington, and talk to us, please. Your take.
The first thing I noticed about that vessel, it does not look like a passenger vessel. It has the appearance of a cargo vessel, one that carries cargo, goods. Those are the ones you usually see them plying, from country to country, transporting goods rather than transporting people. And I think one of the problems might be with the vessel. It could have been something that was used to transport dangerous chemicals or some sort of item that was very toxic to humans. And I think if that's the case, and if the government of Guyana purchased a boat that was used for transporting goods or cargo, and now they're using it to transport passenger, the government of Guyana might be looking at a very serious lawsuit, because if you're endangering the people of Guyana by exposing them to dangerous toxins, because we don't know why. We have one person with an asthma attack, which might be an indication that the air quality on the boat might be an issue, or there might be something that the people are inhaling that might be an issue. And I would advise people not to use the boat, because if this is happening, people are falling dead, you have people with asthma attack, there might be some issues with toxin on the boat. And the government of Ghana need to have the boat tested to ensure that it's even safe for passengers to be plying back and forth on it, because it might have just been a cargo ship that they purchased in ignorance, because we know the people, a lot of times the ministers and the people who are doing business on behalf of the people of Ghana, they're nonetheless wiser. They make foolish decisions like we see with that contract. So we got to be careful and make sure that this boat was actually purchased, or it was for the use of what it was purchased for, to transport passengers rather than cargo. If it's a cargo boat, guys, do not get on it, do not use it. If it's a boat for passengers, then the government of Ghana need to run tests, but it doesn't give the appearance of a passenger boat.
It doesn't at all. We dealt with that last evening. But looking at the time, 6 minutes after 10, Mr. Caesar, your closing remarks, please, sir.
Yeah, listen, Mark, I cannot, close without, remarking and, reminding the opposition about a new voters list. I'm going to say it every night until I see movement, because this work that we're doing here is very, very important work. It takes time, it takes energy, but we continue to come on night after night. Our listeners, viewers, they continue to come on, be edified, and continue, to support our brothers and sisters in Guyana. But, everybody have a part to play in this fight. And I feel like if we're doing our part, but, the opposition needs to really get serious. When Mr. Norton gets back to Guyana, they need to have a serious meeting. And besides that, Congress is coming up also. And you're not hearing too much about Congress. And we should be hearing about Congress, because it should happen. There's no way that they should be skipping Congress. But that being said, Mark, to have our people on the ground who does not support this racist installed dictatorship regime to be living in fear with no leadership in sight, no one in sight to comfort them, to edify them, empower and encourage them. It's a shame, because our MPs are paid. They signed up for this job. So when you signed up for something and, the kitchen gets hot, you got to be prepared for it, man. We all work late, Mark. You work late. Shalon works late. I work late. Listen, you got to put in the work. Work has to be put in. And I am just not seeing it. I am not seeing it. And we cannot continue in this mode. This is not a good mode, Mark. We are within 2 years of regional and general elections. Where are we going with this? And another thing, we're not hearing from the commissioners out of GCOM. We need to hear from these commissioners, Mark. They need to have like a bi-weekly press conference, just focus on GCOM and what's happening. I feel like if these commissioners need to be, a part of this whole initiation of protesting GCOM, and we also need to protest the courts also, because it would have been the courts who would have passed that Order 60 and allow what would have happened to happen, and for this government to be seated. So listen, we need to continue to keep this government in check. We have them on the back foot, but if you have somebody on the back foot and you're being passive and not, exercising your duties to the people, then it doesn't really even make sense. You're going to allow them to get aggressive again, and they're getting ultra aggressive. Look what's happening to the show workers. That's a good example. Just now, you're going to can't sneeze in Guyana. You sneeze in Guyana, you'll be charged with treason. We got to be careful, man. We got to be careful, man. The PPP is seeking to have a one government, a one party state. And that is dangerous, and we need to stop it before it happens. We need to stop looking to the international community. We know that they're not going to do anything. Their bottom lines are being satisfied. So it has to happen internally on our part. So I encourage the opposition and all the small parties that support the opposition. This has to be a collective effort. I call on all the leaders to put aside their egos and let's go. You know, we have a strong opposition here, and we need to defeat this adversary for sure in order to save our country. Over to you, Mark, and good night to all the listeners and viewers.
Thank you. 11 minutes after 10 o'clock. Well said, Mr. Caesar there. And for all of your comments, indeed, Miss Washington, I know a lot of things we haven't covered. We always have other days to cover everything, 1 hour at a time, 1 hour at a time. And for those of you, don't forget on Saturday, 4 p.m. right here, Ms. Washington has her own show, The Law and You, dealing with legal matters. And she has invited me. She sent me a nice letter inviting me in a nice, respectful manner. And usually when people go the right route and invite you in a respectful manner, you just have to accept that invitation. And I must say publicly, Miss Washington, I accept your invitation because you did it in such a professional manner. Thank you. Can you close, please, this evening?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you to everyone who listened into the program tonight. I want to encourage you, press the like button, share the link. Don't forget, as long as you come here, make sure you press the like button. That's the way you get the video more popularity and you get the video out to more viewers. The more you press that like button, that's how we get it out. But thank you so much for staying with us tonight, and thanks to all you who have been supporting my office. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. All the referrals, I appreciate it also. Thank you guys. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys back on Saturday at 4 p.m.
Thank you. That was very short, straight to the point. Appreciate it, Miss Washington. I noticed somebody's asking when is the new ambassador going to arrive in Guyana. The new ambassador is preparing, and this is just my opinion, is preparing to head to Guyana. Maybe sometime in this, mid September. We're almost in mid September, mind you. So she should be in Guyana anytime soon. The outgoing ambassador, Sarah Ann Lynch, is packing up, making her final rounds, and she should be out of there soon. And the new one, Nicole, should be there soon. We will be discussing some things we have in mind, and so that all Guyanese can feel comfortable. But for now, thank you so much to Ms. Washington, attorney at law, the attorney who passed the bar exam at the first attempt. And she wrote the bar exams by herself, mind you. Thank you, Ms. Washington. And our public accountant, Mr. Wayne Caesar, man who takes time out, both Ms. Washington and Mr. Wayne Caesar. They do take their time out to be here with us. It's because they are very concerned about what's happening in Guyana. They are what you call patriotic citizens of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And I thank them so much as oftentimes for their time. And that is why I say, go out and support Miss Washington's law firm. Give her a call. Tell the officers there at her office that you heard it right here on 107.1 FM. You get yourself maybe an extra 5 minutes of consultation. Free. Consultation is free, but you get an extra 5 minutes or so. Just mention that you heard it right here. Somebody, Miss Washington, inboxed me. I don't know, Guyanese people inboxed me to say that my tie and my shirt, I look like a Guyanese immigration officer. And they were afraid. They thought that they were at the airport in Guyana.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for your time, Miss Washington, and Mr. Caesar as well. God bless you both.
Good night.
Thank you, Mark. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. And of course, to all of our listeners, every single one of you, including our operator, Lemon, who is always busy at work. Sometimes we tell him we can't afford to pay him, and he just go off and he disappears for 1 month and then he returns. But he's back with us, and we appreciate that. And good night to the opposition MPs. I hope none of them sleeping at the moment. We need to see more of them. And we just can't bury our heads and feel that the opposition is doing enough. No, they need to do more. That is what politics is all about. We don't sit here to bash the opposition. We want to see the opposition do well. We want to see the opposition succeed. But they got to go out there and do their part. Most of them are not doing their part. The few who are doing their part, we know who they are. On the ground is what matters. On the ground is important. They need to stay on the ground. Leave us to do different shows, and you guys are commenting and you guys are sharing. You guys do the social media runs, so to speak. But for now, I just say until tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a rebroadcast of an interview Mr. Norman Brown did earlier. He invited me for an interview, and I did that interview with him, and he invited me in a nice professional manner. And usually when people do that, you invite people in a good way. You do, and people will accept your invitation if you do it in a proper way. You respect people. That's all I wish to say. But for now, God bless you all. Till tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. God bless you.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
We out a GT, but Baba White and everybody know we run the country. Lord, we out a GT, but Baba White and we got the GT money.
Oh, we just rum dance all and we pack party. Kapacha cracker jack we in a category. And anything we do, the radio station have a play. Cause people in the party just a ball hooray. We from GT and then we love ladies. And them rush we when we come a party. But look, we jump on your mic, we make your party alright. I read them what we are singing, make you bubble and think.
We out a GT, but Baba White and everybody know we run the country. Lord, we out a GT, but Baba White and we get the GT money. I saw me bound a road, me say, in a pleasant. Since I was a youth, I was a ram dance man. Bound a road in a Victoria. In granny say, boy, you better be a singer. Have a house, me say, in a pleasant. Watches have a house, a Victoria back dam. Have a mini bus of the city. We out a GT, but Baba Bye, everybody know we run the country. Like I say, we out a GT, hey, and we get the GT money. Some are DJ and some are singer.
And when you check them out, you find them a small timer.
We are DJ and we are singer.
And when they check we out, they find we a big timer.
Now the time has come and you show them we know.
So listen to we music and go dance by your toe.
They couldn't touch me no matter how they try.
So if them say they rank with me, I lie, them I lie.
Come Mr. Patcha, rock this I want, eh. Come Mr. Patcha, beg your rock and come on, eh.
Come Kaka Jack, sing this ya one. After this ya one, you do it one by one.
We out a GT, but Baba Bye, and everybody know we run the country. Lord, we out a GT, but Baba Bye,
This is
and
attorney
we get the
Shellen
GT money.
Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.